Hey everyone, this is Chris with Safety First Firearms and Defense, and today I'm going to talk to you about the Gun Safety Act of 2023, or formerly known as SB 1. This bill has been signed into law by Governor Moore and will go into effect October 1st, 2023. Now, I started recording a longer video to go through the ins and outs of what this bill entails and how it's going to change things for all us Marylanders going forward. But that video is going to be a lot longer than I anticipated, so I'm going to save that and I'm going to share that with you later when I do a deep dive into this new law. But first, I want to share with you some key points that I think are worth noting immediately. First, they're saying the purpose of the bill is for prohibiting a person from knowingly wearing, carrying, or transporting a firearm onto the real property of another unless the other has given certain permission, prohibiting a person from wearing, carrying, or transporting a firearm under certain circumstances and in certain locations, altering the circumstances under which a person is prohibited from possessing a regulated firearm, altering provisions of the law relating to obtaining and revoking a permit to wear, carry, and transport a firearm, and generally relating to restrictions on wearing and carrying or transporting a firearm. So this bill is going to change the way we obtain our permit, what can restrict you from getting the permit, how your permit can be revoked. It's going to change the way we carry our firearm once we get our permit. Right? So this bill is going to change a lot of things. Alright, so these first new restrictions are going to be these new categories of areas that are going to be restricted from the carrying of firearms. Alright, so in this new bill, a person may not wear, carry, or transport a firearm in an area for children or vulnerable individuals. A person may not wear, carry, or transport a firearm in a government or public infrastructure area. This restriction does not apply to organized sporting or athletic activity for which the wear, carry, and transport of a firearm is a customary part of the sport or athletic activity. And a person may not wear, carry, or transport a firearm in a special purpose area. Okay, so what do these areas mean? The first, area for children or vulnerable individuals, means a preschool or pre-kindergarten facility, a private primary or secondary school, a youth camp, a healthcare facility, in a location that is being used as a shelter for runaway youth. Okay, so anywhere you're going to find kids. What does a government or public infrastructure mean? All right, so this is going to be a building owned or leased by a unit of state or local government, a building or private institution of higher education, a location that is currently being used as a polling place, an electric plant or electric storage facility. All right, so these are all going to be government or public infrastructure areas, and some of these are going to be new locations. Some of these were already protected locations before. Historically, we've always been restricted from being able to carry on government property, but now we can see that they're extending that to a lot of private property as well. Another area is organized sporting or athletic activity. So this is going to be any area where the activity is between 3 or more individuals who are engaged in a sport or athletic activity as part of the same league. All right, and then the last category of area is going to be a special purpose area. All right, so this is going to be a location licensed to sell or dispense alcohol or cannabis on site for on-site consumption. All right, so you can't carry in bars now, and now that cannabis is going to become legal in Maryland, if there's a location where they're dispensing cannabis and you can consume it on site, you're going to be restricted from carrying there as well. All right, so this is new for Marylanders. Some other locations are going to be a stadium, a museum, a location being used for an organized sporting or athletic activity. We already kind of talked about that earlier. A live theater performance, a musical concert, or a performance for which the members of the audience are required to pay or possess a ticket to be admitted. A fair, a carnival, a racetrack, a video lottery facility, and within 100 yards of a place where a public gathering, a demonstration, or an event which requires a permit from a local governing body is being held, if signs posted by law enforcement agency conspicuously and reasonably inform members of the public that the wearing, carrying, and transporting of a firearm is prohibited. Again, this one is kind of something that was already instituted before, so this is not really new. All right. Some things that are new as far as where you're restricted from carrying are going to be private property. Okay, so now Maryland's going to restrict how you can carry on private property. A person wearing, carrying, or transporting a firearm may not enter or trespass on property that is posted conspicuously against wearing, carrying, or transporting a firearm on the property. Enter or trespass on property after having been notified by the owner or the owner's agent that the person may not wear, carry, or transport on the property. Enter or trespass in the dwelling of another unless the other has given express permission either to the person or the public generally to wear, carry, or transport a firearm inside the dwelling. Okay, so now you can't go on private property, especially if they have signs. Now, historically, the no firearms allowed signs on private property have not been legally enforceable. They're now changing that, so if a person has a sign on private property that says no guns allowed, if you go on that property with a firearm, you are now breaking the law. Okay? Now, again, with private property, if you go into a person's dwelling, they have to give you prior or advance permission to carry on that property before you can carry on their property. If you do so without that prior permission, you are now breaking the law. Okay? Another big one, they're removing the ambiguity with open carry. All right, so there's people that would say Maryland's a concealed carry state, people that would say Maryland's an open carry state, but previously the law did not specifically state. They're now specifically stating that your firearm has to be concealed. It has to be. But with that as a caveat, they're saying that the momentary or inadvertent exposure of your handgun is not going to break the law, right? The momentary or inadvertent exposure of the imprint or outline of your gun is also not going to break the law. Okay, so if you accidentally lift up your shirt and your gun is exposed, or if your shirt is restricted somehow and the imprint of your gun shows, that's not breaking this law. But again, your firearm will have to be concealed going forward once this law is enacted. All right, some administrative changes we're going to see. There's going to be a regular review of information regarding the active permit holders. So what this means is they're going to do random background checks on permit holders in Maryland. And if they find that you are not allowed to carry these firearms anymore, so if between the time that you've applied for your permit and you're renewing your next permit, if you are no longer eligible to carry a firearm through this periodic review, they're going to now revoke your permit. Okay, and they're going to give you 10 days after you've been notified that your permit's been revoked to turn that permit in, and they're going to give you a procedure on how you're going to turn your firearms in if you're no longer able to possess firearms. Okay, so that's coming down. Another administrative item is there's going to be an annual report to the governor. This report is going to give him statistics on the number of applications, the number of approvals, the number of denials, and the number of appeals. So he's going to get this annually from now on. And then some other changes that we have coming down the pipe. They're going to change the requirements to receive your permit. All right, so the criteria that has to be met for you to be eligible to get a permit is the same. You still have to not be a felon. You still have to not have a violent history or propensity for violence. But what we were once held to, standard of a good and substantial reason, that went away after Bruin. All right. This law is bringing back the good and substantial reason. Okay, that's now going to be part of the criteria again going forward to get a permit. You will now have to prove that you have a good and substantial reason to carry a concealed firearm. This is in direct violation of the Supreme Court ruling in Bruin. So I don't know how this part's going to hold up. All right. Another administrative change is that they are changing the curriculum for concealed carry classes. They're keeping the time frame the same, so it's still going to be a 16-hour class for your original permit and still going to be an 8-hour class for your renewal, but they've added a more robust curriculum that needs to be taught in all these classes. Will that result in longer classes? I don't know. But I do like some of the topics that are going to be required to be covered. These are topics that I'm already covering anyway, but I like the fact that it's now mandatory for everyone to cover these topics. And again, I'm going to go into a deep dive on what these topics are in that longer video that I'm going to put out later. And then the last change that I want to talk about today, this one is something that was in the past as well, but has now come back. All right, so previously we had restricted permits. All right, that went away a couple years ago, and all permits were unrestricted. They are now bringing back the ability for the Secretary of the State Police to add restrictions to your permit. So the Secretary is authorized to restrict the time, the day, the season, the year, or the circumstances on when your permit is actually active and when you can actually carry your firearm. this is going to be big. So if we're now required to justify why we need a firearm, I can see a lot of people may have to have restrictions on their firearm based on those justifications. All right, that's all I want to go over right now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this content, check out some of our other videos on our channel and be sure to like, share, follow, and subscribe. For information on our upcoming in-person and virtual trainings, check out our Facebook page, which can be found in the video description below. And as always, remember to keep safety first.